listening to Stairway Spirits, a production of Ghostly Talk. Stairway Spirits is a free podcast and research project examining supernatural activity on or around staircases. The stories are wide and vast, so join us, won't you?
I can honestly say that spirit photography was the thing that sparked my interest in ghosts when I was very young. It was easy for a developing mind to have a fascination with these mysterious and unsettling photos and the stories that came with them. Some people end it there and move on with their lives. I didn't. I wanted to know more. I wanted answers. Terry Gambill and Greg Myers were nice enough to join me for a discussion on this subject. I spoke to Terry Gambill and Tom Halstead about 15 years ago about a photo Tom shot on top of a stairway that just frankly blew all of us away. Unfortunately, Tom passed away in 2013, but he shot a photo that I keep coming back to this day, and the more I look at it, the more questions I have about these stairway spirits. What year was this that these photos were shot? Let me just ask you that to start off with. What year was this?
Approximately 2006.
Okay.
In 2005. One of them was November 2005, I remember.
So these were, I mean, as far as the photos we're talking about here, there's two photos, let's say, right? So they were both shot in different years, I guess. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
Correct.
And you guys have nicknames for these photos, because I just want to be able, when we're discussing this, I want to be able to refer to the correct one, because we have one that's at the top of a staircase, which is pretty mind-blowing. Go ahead, Terry.
Yeah, I call him the white ghost, and the other one I call the fire ghost.
Okay, and that's perfect to work with. And, of course, for the people that are listening to the show, we're going to have these posted on the site for you guys to look at these photos, because... See, we talked about these a handful of years ago, like I said, and they're still pretty mind-blowing to look at both of these photos. I mean, I have to say, to your guys' credit, and to Tom's credit too, these photos are still pretty. I don't even know the nice word to say it. It's disturbing to a certain degree, but not in a bad way. I'm sure you guys have heard this before, but especially seeing this picture of the white ghost. You don't see too many photos like this, let's say, right? And
no, as a matter of fact, I've been taking ghost pictures for a long time, and my photos are never like the ones Tom got. He had a knack for it. Yeah,
and I remember when we talked, Tom, when this happened years ago, we came on and we talked about that, and I think we said that, you don't see this. You just don't see photos like this. Even the white ghost, like I mentioned, and the fire ghost too, that we're going to talk about now. If I may ask, and if this is not allowed, go ahead and say no. Can we talk about the location where these were shot at, or is this still something that's kind of kept under wraps? Are we not allowed to talk about that?
No, we still have to keep the location private.
That's fine. That's fine. So let's talk about the photos themselves then. Is there anything, I guess, let's start with before the photos were shot. And I mean, I know this is going to be more perspective, right? But let's talk about the white ghost to start with, right? Was there any things that happened? I mean, what were the events that maybe led up to shooting this picture being shot, I guess, as far as the white ghost? We'll start with the white ghost. Were there any things that happened? Like, was there a story behind this before it was actually shot, the picture?
Should I take that one, Greg?
Yeah, go ahead, Terry.
Okay. I was in an adjacent room when Tom took that photo. There are two stairways in this house. There's a small back stairway and a main staircase. This was taken at the top floor from the ascending staircase, the small one. Mm-hmm. Tom was standing in, what would you call it, the back area when he saw this white figure ascending the stairway. That's when he got his camera out and snapped the picture. You'll notice it was done in great haste. That's how come it's not perfectly center framed.
Yeah.
But I heard him yelling from the adjacent room.
Yeah, and you're right. It is on the right side of the frame. And everybody, like I said, this is going to be on the website, so you guys will be able to see this. But it came out. I mean, even shooting it I guess in haste, as you said, I mean, just Tom was shooting this. He obviously shot this picture. It's so clear. I don't know any other way to say it. It's such a clear photo. It's so well defined. The term apparition, we've heard that so many times over our years in this field. I mean, I don't know if we would consider this something like that, but I mean, it is close to a form as I've ever seen in any piece of spirit photography I've ever seen. It is clearly a figure of a person. I mean, that's all I can say about that. I mean, and it is at the top of a staircase. And this is the reason that I really want to talk about this. Tom said that he saw this actual figure ascending the staircase?
Yes.
My goodness. And
the other one he didn't see. None of us did. That was done on a camera on a tripod, taking pictures at like 30-second, 60-second intervals that he had set up.
Yeah.
And that one, none of us actually saw.
So, and these are different locations, though. They're two separate stairways. Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So these are two different locations. And so, and you just said the fire ghost, no one was there for that. That was more or less just on a timer on a camera, you said, correct?
Yes.
All right, so let's get into this a little bit then. As far as, starting with the white ghost, right? Top of the stairway. I guess what I want to ask you guys about, because you've had many years to reflect on this, right? And I mean, as far as the white ghost is concerned, we've mentioned Tom a handful of times, and that should be mentioned. Tom Halstead, he's no longer with us, unfortunately. But he was the one who shot this picture, correct? Just want to be clear on that. The white ghost, correct? Okay.
Correct.
I guess go ahead.
His cameras took both of the pictures.
Okay. I guess my question here is, with Stairway Spirits, what we're doing here, as I've said, is we're focusing in on this idea of phenomena around stairways. Obviously, I'm exploring a lot of thoughts and ideas on this, and I'm curious to know, I mean, at least from your guys' perspective, I mean, talking about the white ghost here, right? I mean, and as we've said already, Tom said that he saw this figure ascending the stairway before he shot the actual picture. Okay?
Yes.
What do you guys, I mean, let's flat out ask the question. I mean, what do you guys think this could have been? Do you think the stairway had something to do with this? Do you think this was a component in this occurrence, this event?
I would say probably yes, because of the area that was probably traveled a lot by the people who once lived at that location in that building.
Do you think...
Yes, stairways are bottlenecks between floors.
Talk more. I want to hear more about that, Terry. Explain bottleneck, if I may ask.
Well, for most people, getting from one area of a house to another requires you to either go up or down a flight of steps. Mm-hmm. So it's a natural bottleneck for people and apparently for some of these entities. Although there are some exceptions, like at Tri-County, where we had one entity go through the floor of the building into the basement, where it didn't use a stairway. So we've had both instances of where they will use a stairway and where they don't.
You mean they just kind of ascend or descend between floors without the use of stairs?
Yes.
Well, there's something I've heard a couple of stories now thus far about that, and it's an interesting thought on this. People have said they've seen this, and they've, of course, done. And I've talked to people already on the show here about this, where they've seen entities do this, where they just kind of ascend or descend, and there's no stairway there. But perhaps, and some people have proof of this, there may have been a stairway there at one time, right? And it could have been demolished. It could have been anything. But I've had people tell me, like, well, we've seen spirits go up and down like that, and at one time we verified in the old construction of the building that there was a stairway there. So it could be that, right? My thing with
in the Tri-County case, that wouldn't be the case. It's a poured concrete floor. So where this entity went through the floor, there was never a stairway.
Interesting.
Although I have had in that same location a shadow figure followed me up one of the stairways.
Really? Tell me about that.
One time it was during an investigation. I came up I call it the secondary stairway, and it goes in kind of like a square going up. And when I got to the top of the stairs, I went into the kitchen area, and I had a funny feeling. So I looked behind me, and when I was looking at the stairway I just come up, there was a shadow figure flying up the stairway. Then it vanished when I was starting to get a really good look at it.
That's like every nightmare I think people have is something following them up a stairway like that. Am I off? Am I correct on that? Because that's like everything I'm scared of. To this day, I still have that every once in a while. I don't know about you guys, but I'll get the heebie-jeebies every once in a while for some reason. I'll be traveling up the stairway in my own house here. Every once in a while, I find myself just kind of looking behind myself real quick. And I don't know if it's for any real reason, but I just get the heebie-jeebies every once in a while. Do you guys ever feel that?
Yes.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do quite a bit going downstairs. Because the last thing, I get the phobia that something's going to come from behind and push me while I'm going down.
Well, and this leads into this idea of stairways. And Terry, you mentioned the idea of a bottleneck, and we're obviously digging deep into the stairway thing here, like I said. And one of the things I've been saying about stairways, up or down, is that they're passageways and they are bottlenecks, but they're also places of a lot of stress, I think, too. When you're traveling, like when you're going down a staircase or a stairway, you're technically making a controlled fall. If you think about that, you're making a controlled fall going down, right? Obviously, and we've all done this before. We've all lost our footing, and we may have had accidents on stairways going down. And I think we all know we're getting older. We're not getting any younger here, and the older you are, that can be very dangerous. It can be fatal to some people if you fall down a staircase like that. So it's a place, and even going upstairs, you can have accidents too. It seems like these staircases, ascending and descending passageways, they're places of great stress and great anxiety, I think, too. And I've been thinking, like, okay, could this be something that may leave an impression? Do people, like we're saying in the picture of the white ghost here, we have a stairway that's been probably traveled hundreds of thousands of times. I'll throw some wild number there. I mean, people go up and down stairs all the time, every day. Right? So they get a lot of traffic. And people are always worried, I think, when you're traveling on stairs. You're always watching yourself. So I think, couldn't you leave maybe that impression, that stress possibly on that area? And that may be, to me, it's at least one idea I'm putting out there, that may be why we see a lot of activity on stairways like this, because they are places of higher stress. You guys follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, I never thought of it like that before, Scott. That's a very good theory on that.
It seems like that may explain some of this. I'm not saying that, stairways are the only place that we see ghosts, because that's not true at all. I think we've all seen photos and had experiences outside of staircases, but it seems like that may explain this thing. And it explains the white ghost, at least to me, a little bit. I mean, we're right at the top of a staircase here. I have nothing else to say. It's mind-numbing how detailed this photo is. Let's talk about the fire ghost, though, for a second, though, too. Now, this was go ahead.
To let you know, Scott, the fire ghost is in the same building. You asked earlier if it was the same location, but it is the same location, different staircases.
Different staircases. Okay, cool. So this was shot. Nobody saw this.
Yeah, that's the front main staircase.
Okay, so the different staircases, same building though, and they were different years though too, correct? One was in 2005,
right.
One was in 2006.
Okay. And that was 2006, the fire on the stairs.
Okay, cool. So nobody saw the fire ghost. To be clear, we said that before. Okay.
No, we would lock down the building, removed all human element, and just left equipment run.
Okay. I mean, let's get down to this one too then. I mean, what do we think this may be here? I mean, this is not at the top of the staircase. This is technically at the bottom of the staircase from what we see here. And again, this will be on the website. Everybody will be able to see this.
Actually, the fire extends all the way to the very top of the staircase.
So
the human portion of it looks to be at the first step at the base, going up, but the flames seem to extend all the way up to the top of the staircase.
Do we think this is, I mean, I know it's being called the fire ghost for identification purposes. I don't think this is really fire. This is the picture I'm looking at right now is undoctored, though. It's just a flat, what the camera picked up, correct? There's nothing that's been done to this photo, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I've never seen a manifestation like this before, though. And to your point, guys, it does look like fire. But do we think this is actually, I'm trying to think of what the hell this might be. What do we think this actually is, though? Any ideas from you guys?
Just the energy involved with the manifestation of that spirit is what I would think.
Terry?
Producing that somehow. We don't know the mechanics of it. And we also don't get many photos like this. So we don't have anything to really compare it with. Mm-hmm. The photos Tom caught are extremely unusual. When Greg and I take photos, we very seldom get, really, really good pictures. And none of the pictures that I don't think either of us have taken have ever been as good as the ones that Tom got.
Well, I remember saying that to Tom years ago. Wow, I've never seen photos photos taken like this. I guess my question, and we may have asked him this years ago too, I'm sure we did. Was Tom special? Was there something, I guess it wouldn't be too far to say that some people, may be more magnetic to spirits like this. They may be able to capture things a little easier than we do. Because, I'm in the same boat you guys are. The photos, there's been very few photos I've shot. I'm talking I can count on one hand that I would consider that I saw something in the frame that I would consider anomalous, right?
I think that the trick is that Tom's sense of timing is better than ours. He knew right when to snap the shutter on a lot of different things. We would go into a haunted cemetery. I would get very middling pictures, and he would come up with, wonderful pictures. And I think it's that sense of timing. He was real precise as to know when to snap the shutter that we are not gifted at. I think it's a skill, and you either have it or you don't.
Yeah. I guess the question comes to mind with that is, so he knows he can shoot the photo. He knows when to shoot the photo, and that comes from somewhere also, I think, too. I'm not saying that this is all supernatural, right? But
right.
we're talking very precise timing here. And you're right. If you think about, that's a really interesting thought when it comes to this, because I think it would be safe to say that one frame could have something, and the next frame, we're talking milliseconds here. If you're shooting video, and we've seen this I know we've all seen this with video. Something just blips in there, and you have to watch very close to see things like that. I've seen this with video, and we've frozen a frame and said, "Wow, there's something there," but it was only there for one little frame, right? And I guess that's what it comes down to. What Tom may have had that the three of us don't is that sense of timing, like you said.
Right, like a lot of psychics would say he has a special gift of using his third eye or a certain chakra. It was connected to the spiritual realm. And we heard that over and over again from multiple psychic or sensitive types. Interesting.
As far as the stairways are concerned, Terry, you mentioned that, and I like that term a lot. I'm going to probably be taking that with me from this discussion, is this idea of a bottleneck.
Yeah.
As we've said, we've mentioned this, that stairways are places of transmission, or transition, I should say, not transmission, transition from up and down and up, wherever you may be going. I guess the question I have, and it may be part of this, it may be not, but I'm wondering if the stairway here was the main reason that Tom saw this. As far as these, we can't speak for Tom, right? But I'm wondering if the stairway was the culprit here. And I know it's more of a hypothetical, it's a rhetorical question, if anything. But is the stairway, was this the reason we saw this? Do you guys think this stairway was the culprit here, or was the stairway just part of this whole situation?
I think the energy around the stairway does, develop increased manifestations. How many times do teams go out to investigate and they're focused? They always have cameras on stairways.
Mm-hmm. Terry?
It's a common setup point with almost every investigator. So I believe the stairway does have an influx on, what comes out, like these pictures Tom caught.
How about you, Terry? What do you think?
It's hard to know because we don't really know enough about it to give definitive answers.
I agree.
Because it's underway studying. We're just trying to figure the mechanics of how this is working out. I mean, it's like, why is it when I'm looking at a cat that is looking at something but I can't see it, then all of a sudden a light will appear that the cat was obviously tracking when we couldn't see it, and then the light disappears. It's like, how did the cat see it when we couldn't? And if it just is because it sees a wider spectrum, why did it become visible to us but only at a certain point in time?
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. And I've said there's a lot of different ideas with stairways. And the funny thing, you mentioned that, Greg, that, a lot of teams go out and do this work in the field, and a lot of them just naturally will focus running cameras on stairways. It makes me think, like, why haven't people been more just directed at stairways themselves? Obviously, some of my favorite or most interesting photos I think we've seen in spirit photography over history have been on or around stairways themselves. So it seems like, at least I want to do that. I want to focus more on stairways. I think they're places of power. I think they're places of stress, like I've said. And obviously, Tom's photos here are a testament to that as far as what we're seeing. Right at the top of the stairway, the white ghost, like I said, fascinating photos, absolutely fascinating photos. And I wish Tom would be here for us to talk more about it. Unfortunately, he isn't. And, all respect to Tom, though, on that, too. He's a really cool guy. I'm glad I got to talk to him years ago.
Yeah, he was a great guy.
So we talked about the befores, the whens, what happened with these photos we're talking about here today. But there's a little bit of history also that we decided to kind of cover here too. And so with that, as far as the white ghost and the fire ghost are concerned here, I guess, can we start with the white ghost? There's some history around this staircase, or the staircase itself. Am I correct, Terry?
Yes, where the white ghost manifested at the top of the stairway. Greg and I had an experience at the base of the stairway. It was after the investigation was over. I had a group of glow sticks that I put at high trip areas so that people wouldn't fall. There were small holes in some floors, and just so that people could see at the top and bottom of the step. And at the end of the investigation, I went to go clean up. Mm-hmm. So I went to go pick up all the glow sticks. Well, I was looking all over the place, and they were gone, so I thought someone else had cleaned them up.
Yeah.
Nobody else had cleaned them up. When I was at the bottom of the step, there is a wall, and it's kind of a deteriorated wall. You can see underneath to the outside in a small gap at the base of the foot where the small back stairway is located.
Okay.
Well, I went looking for the glow sticks, and I went outside to ask about them, and I noticed on the wall outside of the building is a refuse pile of leaves, and it was glowing. Well, I lifted up the leaves that's just outside the wall to where these steps were, mm-hmm. and there were glow sticks that had been buried underneath this pile of leaves. They'd been rustled up, picked up, and buried under these leaves, and nobody had done this.
You don't think they may have just rolled out Through that crack you were talking about?
Couldn't have rolled. See, these were located throughout the building.
Oh, okay.
And all but one or two had been picked up. There were one or two that had been left in place, but all the others had been picked up and carried a good distance to the base of that stairway and tucked underneath the leaf pile. But Greg has the key story of what happened to one of those glow sticks.
Well, yeah, Terry knows where they were missing one, after I got with him later. I think I was outside when he noticed that, because this was after their lockdown during that time when no human was in the building. We were all outside. But then towards the end of that lockdown, I noticed a weird red glow going through the tree line of the hill on the backside of the house by us. So something took one of the glow sticks and went off into the woods with it.
Something
higher than the human height, like, floating, in the tree line level.
And you can't go out into that woods at night because it's so steep. You would need flashlights to see your footing up there. It couldn't have been a human who was doing this.
So something just removed these glow sticks from the building, basically. I mean, to put it
right. Basically, it was at the bottom of the staircase, like Terry said. But I think that was where the old back door used to be that was boarded over and walled in.
Yes, that's very probable that at one time that was probably a doorway.
And now you're saying that was the bottom of the staircase.
Yes, that's the back of the bottom of the staircase.
And that was, now I'm trying to line these up now. That was the bottom of the staircase where the white ghost was shot, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What about the fire ghost? Was there anything that happened around that one?
Well, when we go into one of those, Terry, on the fire ghost one at the top of the stairway, where it goes up, actually one of the investigations, because the windows were boarded up outside of the place, and some of them had vents put in them because, to preserve the building, who was preserving it did a pretty good job at, protecting and such. But while we were investigating, an actual window at the top of that stairway where the fire ghost was imploded inward, like somebody threw a baseball or a softball through it.
Yeah, I was standing about 6 feet from it when it happened.
And some of the glass actually landed on the stairway, the top couple of, stairs.
Oh, you guys saw this happen?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, Terry was inside. I was outside.
I was upstairs, and there was a woman on the floor, and we had a lantern. And she was seated on the floor when I heard the window right behind me explode. And that's at the top of the main stairway.
And that's where the fire ghost was shot, to be clear.
Yes.
Right.
Then the only
and like I said,
go ahead.
Well, I was reiterating, the window was boarded up from the outside, so there was no way for anybody to throw something through it.
So there was glass. It was obviously board in front of that, and then there was glass behind that. So something hit it. We don't know what it was. I mean, there was obviously nobody saw anything on the outside, but that's what shot glass. You said you felt glass, or glass came down, Terry?
Yes, it came inward, but it came into the, what would you call the top of where the stairway is located? Like it imploded, like if someone had thrown a rock from outside. But the thing is, that couldn't be the case because the outside of the window is all boarded up.
Oh wow! And that was at the top again, the top of the stairway where the fire ghost photo was shot, or the series was shot.
Yes,
correct.
Was there any other stories around the fire ghost picture?
There's one more.
Mm-hmm.
This happened when I was in the top of the stairway looking down, and I could see that there was something moving at the base of the stairs, but I couldn't get a look at what it was that was moving, and I thought it was just one of the other investigators. I called out, and nobody answered. Well, I went downstairs, and I looked around, and there was no one there, and when I checked it out, I was the only one inside the building.
You have been listening to Stairway Spirits, a production of Ghostly Talk. Stairway Spirits can be found at stairwayspirits.com. Our mothership, Ghostly Talk, can be found at ghostlytalk.com. We want to hear about your stairway spirits. Feel free to reach out to us at stairwayspirits@ghostlytalk.com. Thank you for listening.